Welcome, dear listener. Today we travel far back to a land of marble hills and endless blue skies. This is Greece, a place where gods once walked among mortals, shaping stories that still echo today. Our tale is about Athena, a goddess unlike any other, wise and calm, yet strong in spirit and vision. She was born in brilliance, arriving not as a child, but as a figure complete, filled with wisdom and light. Her presence was not of thunder or fire, but of clarity, of thought, of balance between mind and heart. Athena was more than a goddess of war or battle. She was a guardian of justice and a voice of reason. She held close her symbols, the owl of watchful eyes, the olive tree of peace, and the aegis of protection. But above all, Athena was destined to give her name, her spirit, and her wisdom to a city of greatness. This city, still alive with echoes of the past, is Athens, a place where stone and myth breathe together. Today we walk beside her, tracing her story, uncovering why she became the eternal patroness of Athens. Long ago, before time was counted, the great gods of Olympus watched over the world below. Among them stood Zeus, mighty ruler of heaven, whose power shook the earth and stilled the seas. Yet even Zeus, in all his greatness, carried secrets within, mysteries hidden deep in his mind. One such secret was a dream, a vision of a daughter unlike any other, born of wisdom itself. This dream grew stronger, until one day it burst forth in a way that stunned gods and mortals alike. From Zeus's head, radiant and complete, came Athena, gleaming in armor, filled with brilliance. She did not cry like an infant, nor stumble as a child. She stood tall, a figure already mature. The other gods gasped in wonder, for never had such a birth been seen in all of eternity. Her eyes shone with clarity, as if they carried the skies within them, vast and endless. Her voice was calm, yet steady, carrying truth like a clear stream flowing from a mountain. Athena was not born for chaos or destruction, but for order, insight, and the balance of life. She embodied wisdom itself, not as a book or scroll, but as living thought and guiding reason. Her presence inspired trust, for she spoke not of fear, but of fairness, strategy, and harmony. Zeus, though surprised, welcomed her as his child, proud of her strength and her calm heart. The gods soon recognized that Athena was more than a daughter of Zeus. She was an ideal. She stood as proof that wisdom could be as mighty as thunder and as enduring as stone. Her birth was a sign to all. Wisdom has a place among the powers that rule the world. Athena did not boast of weapons or storms, though she carried shield and spear as symbols. She carried them not for violence, but as reminders of courage guided by thought and restraint. Her armor gleamed, not to frighten, but to protect, to assure safety, to promise peace. Wherever she walked, silence grew gentle, for her presence soothed the restless heart. The owl flew beside her, eyes sharp in darkness, watching with patience and insight. This owl became her companion, a reminder that vision is clearest in stillness. The gods named her Pallas Athena, honoring her wisdom and her noble spirit. Stories soon spread, carried by wind and sea, of the goddess born from the mind of Zeus. Mortals whispered her name with awe, for they longed for guidance in their uncertain lives. They prayed not for endless power, but for clarity, for justice, for peace in their homes. Athena answered with calm strength, reminding them that wisdom could steady all storms. She became a model of courage without cruelty, of strength without arrogance. The poets sang of her, their verses lifting her image high above the hills of Greece. Philosophers spoke of her as the mind's light, the one who guided reason and reflection. From the moment of her birth, Athena was more than divine. She was a promise that the world could be shaped not only by force, but by thoughtful hands. Her story, begun in brilliance and wonder, set the stage for her eternal bond with a city. That city would bear her name, her olive tree, her wisdom, and her unyielding light. But before Athens rose, Athena herself had to grow into the role fate had given her. She had to show gods and mortals alike that her birth was not a miracle alone, but a calling. Thus begins her journey, a tale of wisdom walking hand in hand with destiny. Athena's story did not end with her birth, for her character soon began to shape the hearts of gods and mortals. She was unlike many on Olympus, for she did not seek power for herself, nor praise for hollow triumphs. Her spirit was guided by clarity, by vision, by the steady voice that whispers truth in times of confusion. When disputes arose among the gods, it was Athena who spoke with calm, weighing reason over anger. Her words were measured, yet powerful, like a breeze that carries the scent of olive trees at dawn. Mortals looked to her as a presence of fairness, a divine reminder that justice need not come with cruelty. She became a guardian of balance, ensuring that wisdom stood beside strength, never beneath it. Athena was not distant nor aloof, but a goddess who observed closely, learning from human struggle. She admired their courage, their effort to rise above hardship, their hope in the face of uncertainty. And so, she chose not to simply watch from the heights of Olympus, but to guide, to counsel, to inspire. Her nature was reflected in her symbols, each one telling a part of her essence to those who saw them. The owl, with eyes unblinking, taught patience and vision, a lesson of seeing what others overlook. The olive tree, evergreen and enduring, offered nourishment, light, and a promise of peaceful living. Her shield, the aegis, shone not with menace, but with the strength of protection and safety. Even her spear was a mark of strategy, not wild force, for it stood for thoughtful action and defense. These symbols made her different from the gods of thunder, sea, and fire, whose powers were fierce. Athena's power was quieter yet enduring, a reminder that wisdom outlasts storms and flame. Her presence became a light in the mind, a companion to those seeking answers in troubled times. Mortals prayed to her for guidance and counsel, for clarity in decisions, for fairness in judgments. And in every prayer, there was less fear and more trust. For Athena inspired calm hope. Athena was also known for her skill, for she valued not only thought, but also creation and craft. She taught weaving, the art of shaping threads into beauty, discipline, and strength combined. To weave, she said, was to mirror life itself, binding moments together into patterns that endure. Her love for craftsmanship showed that wisdom was not abstract, but alive in work and creativity. She believed that to create was to honor the divine spark within every mortal and immortal alike. Thus, she became a goddess of artisans, of thinkers, of builders who shaped more than stone. Athena guided those who raised walls not only for defense, but for communities to grow within. She blessed their hands, steadying them as they carved, painted, designed, and dreamed. Every act of building, of weaving, of crafting became, in spirit, a hymn sung to her wisdom. Athena reminded them that every creation begins first in thought, and thought begins in stillness. In her character, there was harmony, a balance between action and reflection, courage and care. She never rushed blindly, nor stood still out of fear, but found the middle path where truth lay. This balance made her a guide not only for cities, but for individuals seeking their inner strength. For Athena knew that every soul carries both storm and calm, and wisdom is the bridge between. Her gift was not to banish fear, but to show a way to stand firm, even when fear whispers loud. Her eyes, steady and kind, seemed to remind mortals that their choices mattered in the long journey. She gave them courage not to conquer others, but to master themselves, the hardest task of all. And in this, Athena's character shone brightest, for she valued harmony more than fleeting victory. Thus, she stood, timeless among the gods, as a protector of balance, justice, and mindful courage. Her story, still unfolding, was already a light that mortals followed, a compass for the soul. Symbols tell stories, and for Athena, they became the voice of her character, clear to gods and mortals alike. Each symbol was more than a mark of power. It was a lesson, a guide, a light for those who sought wisdom. When people thought of Athena, they thought of the owl, silent, steady, and endlessly watchful in the night. The owl's eyes glowed with patience, teaching that true vision comes not in haste, but in calm reflection. It reminded mortals that wisdom is not loud or quick, but careful, steady, and born from careful thought. Where others stumbled in darkness, the owl saw clearly, showing that clarity belongs to the quiet mind. The owl became a constant companion in art, in stories, in prayers lifted toward the goddess of wisdom. Yet the owl was not her only gift, for Athena carried within her heart the olive tree, sacred and eternal. Unlike thunderbolts or waves that vanish, the olive tree grew slowly, bearing fruit that nurtured all. Its wood was strong, its oil precious, its branches evergreen, a promise of life enduring through seasons. For the people of Greece, the olive was food, light, healing, and trade, a symbol of prosperity and peace. Athena gave this tree not as a weapon, but as a foundation, showing that true strength builds, not destroys. It told mortals that survival comes not through conquest, but through growth, cultivation, and care. The olive tree became a bond between the goddess and the earth itself, rooting her spirit in daily life. Every grove of olives was, in truth, a living temple, whispering her presence among farmers and families. Another symbol lay in her hands, the aegis, a shield that shimmered with divine protection. The aegis was not a shield of violence, but of reassurance, a promise of safety against chaos. Its surface gleamed with power, reminding mortals that wisdom can shield them more than any blade. It was said to carry awe, but never cruelty, guiding hearts to seek justice with steadiness and care. When mortals thought of the aegis, they thought of security, of calm in times of fear and uncertainty. It taught that true defense does not rest in strength alone, but in courage guided by wise choices. Thus, the aegis stood as a mirror of Athena's spirit, protective, thoughtful, and eternally just. And there was the spear, held with grace, not with rage, for in her hands it was more than a weapon. Athena's spear symbolized strategy, the art of planning, the gift of foresight in moments of decision. It reminded all who saw it that action without thought leads to ruin, but thought before action builds peace. She carried it to show that even in conflict, there can be dignity, restraint, and purpose. The spear was not thrust in anger, but raised in readiness, to defend, to protect, to keep harmony alive. For Athena, the spear was not about destruction, but about guiding action with intelligence and care. It was a symbol of discipline, a reminder that wisdom leads even in moments when courage is tested. Together, these symbols, the owl, the olive tree, the aegis, and the spear, told a complete story. They were threads in a tapestry of meaning, woven into the identity of the goddess herself. Mortals looked upon them and understood Athena not only as divine, but as a teacher and guide. She did not rule with fear, nor dazzle with empty shows of power, but taught through living symbols. Each object, each sign, carried lessons that shaped the lives of her followers for generations. The owl whispered patience. The olive tree promised peace. The aegis offered safety. The spear gave foresight. Through them, Athena's wisdom was made visible, eternal, and unshakable in the hearts of all. And so, her symbols endured, not just as marks of a goddess, but as gifts to all who sought truth. Before Athena became the soul of a city, the land that would be Athens was only a growing settlement by the sea. It was a place of rocky hills, fertile valleys, and open skies where people built their homes and farms. They lived close to the earth, tending crops, herding animals, and drawing water from the rivers and springs. The sea nearby brought trade, travel, and stories. Yet it also brought storms and dangers from afar. These early people were strong, hopeful, and eager to shape a community that would endure through time. But the land, though rich, lacked a spirit to guide it, a patron to bless and protect its people. In Greece, every city had a divine presence, a god or goddess who offered identity and protection. Without such a guardian, the settlement felt incomplete, like a house without its hearth fire burning. The people honored the gods with offerings, but they longed for one who would call this land their own. Whispers spread through the hills that a divine protector would soon choose the rising city. The Acropolis stood tall at the heart of the settlement, a rocky crown above the growing homes. From its height, one could see the blue waters of the sea stretching endlessly beyond the horizon. This hill would one day hold temples and statues, but at that time it was bare, waiting for destiny. It was said that the gods themselves looked down upon this hill, debating who would claim it. For such a land, rich in promise, could not remain unclaimed by Olympus for long. The people, though unaware of divine debates, sensed that something greater was unfolding. They looked at their fields, their flocks, and their children, wondering what future awaited them. Would their city be a place of power, of wisdom, of wealth, or of harmony with the earth? They prayed, not for war or conquest, but for a blessing that would give their lives meaning. And so they prepared altars, lit fires, and offered simple gifts in hope of divine attention. Among the gods, two great powers turned their eyes toward the land of the Acropolis. Poseidon, lord of the seas, and Athena, goddess of wisdom, both wished to guide the city. Each saw its promise, each desired its people, each carried gifts that could shape its destiny. Poseidon was mighty, his trident commanding oceans, storms, and the restless waves. Athena was steady, her mind clear, her vision rooted in peace, growth, and lasting strength. The people could not yet know that their future rested on a choice between sea and soil. They could not yet see the gifts that would be offered, gifts that carried power and meaning. But in their hearts, they felt a stirring, as though the very land beneath them was waiting. The hills, the valleys, and the sea seemed alive with anticipation of what was to come. The city to be stood on the edge of a moment that would shape its soul for eternity. Before the contest was declared, the settlement was simple, yet filled with quiet dignity. Fishermen cast their nets at dawn, farmers tended their crops, children played by the streams. The rhythms of daily life moved with the sun and moon, humble but filled with hope. They did not know that soon their lives would be tied forever to the name of a goddess, and that their city would carry not only her blessing, but her very spirit across the ages. Thus, Athens before Athena was a place of beginnings, waiting, and hidden promise. A land of beauty and challenge, where mortals worked, dreamed, and prayed for guidance. And above them, on Olympus, the gods watched closely, preparing to shape their destiny. For soon the land would no longer be nameless, and its people would no longer be without a patron. The story of their choice and of Athena's gift was about to begin in the heart of this land. On Olympus, the gods gathered, for the time had come to decide the fate of the rising city below. The air was filled with anticipation, for this was no ordinary place, but a land rich with promise. Two great deities had stepped forward, each eager to guide and protect the city on the Acropolis. Poseidon, mighty god of the seas, stood tall, his trident gleaming with the force of oceans and storms. Athena, radiant with calm strength, held her shield and spear, her wisdom steady as the dawn. The gods spoke among themselves, wondering which of these two would make the greater patron. Zeus, ruler of Olympus, raised his hand and called for a contest to settle the matter fairly. Each god, he said, must present a gift to the people, a gift that would shape their destiny. The people, in turn, would judge whose offering was the greater blessing for their lives. With this decree, the stage was set for a contest that would echo through ages of history. Poseidon stepped forward first, his eyes flashing like the restless sea beneath the sky. He lifted his trident high, then struck the rocky ground of the Acropolis with a thunderous force. From the crack in the earth, water surged forth, forming a spring that glittered in the sunlight. The people gasped, for never had they seen such a wonder rise from stone itself. Poseidon declared that this gift would grant them power over the seas and mastery of ships. With his blessing, they could travel far, trade with distant lands, and rule the waves with pride. The sea, he promised, would bring wealth, strength, and the reach of empire across the waters. The people marveled, for the spring flowed clear and strong, a symbol of Poseidon's might. Yet, as they touched the water, they tasted its salt, sharp and bitter upon their tongues. Whispers spread that this gift, though grand, might also carry the hardships of the sea itself. Then Athena stepped forward, her eyes calm, her voice steady, her presence gentle yet firm. She knelt and pressed her hand to the earth, calling forth life from the dry and rocky soil. From that place, a small shoot rose, green and slender, reaching upward toward the light. The people watched in silence as the shoot grew into a strong and graceful olive tree. Its silver leaves shimmered in the breeze, and its fruit glistened with promise of nourishment. Athena spoke softly, telling them that this tree would offer food for their tables and oil for their lamps. Its branches would bring shade in the heat, its wood would serve their craft, its fruit their health. She explained that the olive tree was more than survival. It was peace, endurance, and prosperity. Unlike storms that pass or waves that rise and fall, the olive would endure through every season. It would root deeply in their land, binding their lives to the soil with strength and grace. The people touched its branches and felt hope, for here was a gift that promised lasting growth. It was not the sudden power of thunder, but the steady strength of life and renewal. Fathers and mothers looked at their children and saw a future shaped by this simple tree. They imagined groves spreading across the hills, giving light, warmth, and trade for generations. The olive was quiet, yet its promise seemed greater than the roar of seas or the rush of storms. And so the contest of gifts revealed two paths: power of the waters or peace of the earth. Poseidon's gift was bold, majestic, and filled with the grandeur of the restless sea. Athena's gift was humble, steady, and filled with the promise of life lived with balance. The gods watched as the people weighed their choice, their voices rising in thoughtful debate. For in this moment, the destiny of their city and its patron would be decided forever. The people of the city gathered at dawn, drawn to the Acropolis to cast their choice between the two gifts. Men, women, and elders came together, carrying the weight of decision on behalf of generations to come. The air was hushed, filled with the murmurs of voices, as the spring and the tree stood side by side. The water glistened, promising power and daring journeys, while the olive tree swayed with quiet grace. Both gifts were wondrous. Yet the people knew they must choose only one to shape their destiny. Priests stepped forward to lead the assembly, raising their hands for silence across the crowd. They called upon the gods to bear witness, to see the honesty of the people's decision this day. It was not a moment of fear, but of reverence, for they knew their choice would echo for eternity. Eyes turned to the spring, alive with Poseidon's might, and many were dazzled by its raw force. They imagined ships on the sea, treasures from afar, and the glory of ruling waves without end. Others turned to the olive tree, slender yet strong, rooted firmly in the rocky soil of the hill. They saw not empire, but home, not conquest, but the steady rhythm of life upon the land. The tree spoke of peace, of wisdom, of a prosperity that did not fade with the passing storm. It was quiet, yet its presence stirred the heart, for it promised not only survival, but harmony. The debate was long, voices rising and falling, each side weighing the gifts with care. Poseidon stood proudly, his form towering above the crowd, the sound of waves echoing in his voice. He reminded them that the sea was strength, adventure, and the pathway to power beyond measure. "Choose me," he thundered, "and no shore shall be beyond your reach, no enemy beyond your grasp." His words struck like lightning, filling many with awe, for who could deny the might of the sea? Yet in their hearts, some feared the storm, the salt, and the danger hidden in his restless gift. Then Athena spoke, her tone calm yet clear, carrying the weight of wisdom rather than force. She pointed to the olive tree, its branches shimmering with silver leaves in the morning light. "This gift," she said, "is not of fleeting power, but of life that endures, of hope that never fades." She told them the tree would bring oil to light their nights, food to nourish their families, trade to enrich their lives. She spoke of peace among neighbors, of growth, of wisdom rooted deeply in the soil of their land. The people listened, their hearts stirred not by thunder, but by the steady rhythm of her words. They looked to their children and saw futures of stability, harmony, and gentle strength. They imagined groves across their hillsides, commerce born not of conquest, but of honest exchange. And as they weighed the gifts, it became clear that Athena's offering spoke to their deepest needs. The olive tree, though humble, promised something lasting, something they could build their lives upon. When the moment of decision came, hands were raised, voices declared, and the choice was revealed. The people had chosen the olive tree, chosen Athena, chosen wisdom and peace over storm and conquest. The spring still flowed, but it was the tree that captured their devotion, their future, their identity. Athena was named their patroness, her gift their blessing, her spirit their eternal guide. And with that choice, the city found its name, Athens, forever bound to the goddess of wisdom. Poseidon, though proud, could not claim the land, and his waves echoed with the sound of retreat. Athena stood tall upon the Acropolis, her gaze steady, her blessing falling over the people. The olive tree grew strong in the rocky soil, a symbol of endurance, balance, and quiet power. The people rejoiced, for they knew their city had gained not only a goddess, but a soul. And thus, the choice was made, and Athens was born under the watchful care of Athena. When Athena was chosen as patroness, the city of Athens began to change in spirit and in vision. The people felt her presence not only in the olive tree, but in the wisdom guiding their daily lives. Her blessing was quiet, not thunderous, yet it shaped the way they worked, dreamed, and built together. The Acropolis, once only a rocky hill, now stood as a sacred space, touched by divine purpose. It became the heart of the city, where rituals, prayers, and gatherings honored the goddess of wisdom. Athena's gift, the olive tree, soon spread across the land, planted in groves that lined the hillsides. Families tended these groves, passing them down through generations as symbols of life and continuity. The oil became a treasure, lighting lamps, nourishing bodies, and serving as a source of trade. Merchants carried amphorae of olive oil across seas and roads, exchanging them for goods from afar. The humble fruit of Athena's tree became the foundation of a thriving economy and culture. But Athena's influence reached beyond the fields and markets, shaping minds and hearts of the people. She was the goddess of wisdom, and under her guidance, Athenians turned to thought and reason. They built schools where young minds could learn, question, and explore the mysteries of the world. Philosophy grew here, nurtured by a culture that prized balance, justice, and the pursuit of truth. The people saw knowledge not as a burden, but as a gift that enriched their lives and city. Athena also inspired the crafting of laws, fair and steady, to guide the community in harmony. Justice became a cornerstone of their society, reflecting her calm and balanced spirit. Disputes were settled with reason rather than violence, with words rather than weapons. The city, under her watch, sought peace within its walls, even while remaining strong against threats. Athena's wisdom was not passive. It was strength expressed through clarity and fairness. Art and architecture flourished under her patronage, filling Athens with beauty and meaning. Stones rose into temples, pillars carved with care, each work dedicated to the goddess. Painters and sculptors found inspiration in her image, capturing her grace in marble and color. The Parthenon, though centuries later, would stand as the greatest tribute to her eternal spirit. Every brushstroke, every carving, was a hymn of devotion to the patroness of their city. In daily life, Athenians carried Athena's lessons in their actions, great and small. Farmers saw wisdom in patience as they waited for crops to grow, guided by the rhythm of seasons. Sailors trusted in reason as they read the stars, even as they respected the power of Poseidon. Mothers taught their children the values of thought, courage, and kindness, reflecting her spirit. Athena's presence became a part of their lives, woven into the fabric of every household. The city prospered not only in wealth, but in identity, bound to their goddess with pride. When strangers arrived, Athenians spoke of their patroness, telling of the contest and her gift. They did not boast of conquest or power, but of wisdom, peace, and the endurance of the olive tree. The world began to see Athens not merely as a place, but as a symbol of thought and civilization. Through Athena, the city had found a voice, and through her, it shared its light with others. And so, the bond between Athena and Athens grew unbreakable, a relationship of devotion and guidance. The people gave offerings at her altars, yet her truest temple was in the way they lived. Every decision, every creation, every law bore her mark, her presence as patroness eternal. The goddess had given them more than a gift. She had given them a path, a way of being. And with each passing year, the city's greatness shone brighter, rooted in the wisdom of Athena. As Athens grew under Athena's guidance, the people began to see their city as more than stone and soil. It was an idea, a way of living, a reflection of their goddess's wisdom in every corner of their lives. The olive tree, still standing strong upon the Acropolis, became a living symbol of their identity. Its branches whispered of peace, its fruit offered sustenance, its roots promised endurance. Generations were born and raised beneath its shade, each one tied to the gift of their patroness. But Athena's role as patroness extended far beyond agriculture or trade. It shaped the city's soul. She was the goddess of wisdom and strategy, and her guidance touched the hearts of leaders and thinkers. In assemblies, citizens gathered to debate, guided by reason and fairness rather than fear. This spirit of dialogue gave rise to the first sparks of democracy, a new way of governance. The people's voice mattered, and in their choices, they carried the wisdom of Athena herself. Athena's calm strength reminded them that true power was not found in force, but in thoughtful balance. She taught that a city endures not by silencing its people, but by listening to their voices. In this way, Athens became a beacon, a place where ideas flourished and wisdom guided action. Philosophers wandered its streets, questioning the nature of justice, truth, and the soul. Each thought, each conversation, was a quiet offering to the goddess who valued reason above all. Art continued to flourish as well, reflecting both devotion and creativity inspired by her presence. Athenians painted vases, carved statues, and wove stories that honored their goddess and city. The myths of old were told anew, each one carrying lessons of courage, humility, and wisdom. The owl, Athena's companion, became a familiar emblem, a reminder of her watchful protection. Even their coins bore her image, spreading her spirit into every exchange and every hand. In times of challenge, the people turned to Athena not for brute force, but for clarity of thought. When storms threatened their fields or strangers arrived on their shores, they sought her counsel. They believed she walked among them, unseen yet present, guiding choices with her steady wisdom. She was not distant like some gods, but near, tied to their city as closely as the air they breathed. In every olive grove and marketplace, her spirit lingered, a quiet reassurance in their daily lives. Athens thrived because it was not built solely on strength, but on wisdom, fairness, and hope. Its walls rose higher, its temples shone brighter, and its people grew prouder of their goddess. Travelers from afar marveled at the city, asking what made it flourish with such grace. And Athenians answered simply, it was Athena, their guardian, their patroness, their eternal guide. They told of the contest, of the spring and the tree, of their choice for peace over storm. Yet the story was more than myth. It was their truth, their guiding star across generations. Children grew up hearing how Athena's gift shaped not only their land, but their way of life. They learned that wisdom was a greater treasure than gold, and peace stronger than conquest. Each generation carried this lesson forward, ensuring the city's heart never strayed from its goddess. Athens endured because Athena endured, her presence as eternal as the olive groves on their hills. And so, the bond deepened, not only in temples or statues, but in the spirit of the people. Athena was more than their patroness. She was their soul, reflected in every choice they made. Through her, Athens found its path, a path of wisdom, justice, and enduring light. The city grew, the world watched, and still the olive tree stood tall upon the Acropolis. It was a reminder that their greatness was rooted not in conquest, but in the wisdom of Athena. In the years that followed, Athens continued to blossom, carrying Athena's wisdom as its guiding star. The city's streets grew lively with voices, laughter, and debates that echoed beneath the open sky. Every square, every marketplace became a stage where knowledge, art, and stories intertwined freely. Athenians walked proudly, aware that their goddess had blessed them with more than mere survival. She had given them identity, dignity, and the courage to build a city unlike any other in the world. The olive groves flourished across the hills, their silver leaves shimmering under the sun's embrace. Farmers worked with care, knowing they were tending to the living legacy of their goddess. The oil pressed from their harvest-filled lamps that illuminated homes, shrines, and public spaces. Its golden glow reminded them that wisdom, like light, must be shared and never hoarded. Each flame burning in Athens was a quiet tribute to Athena's enduring gift of clarity and peace. Beyond the fields, the arts continued to rise like a river flowing steadily toward greatness. Poets recited verses that told of gods and heroes, weaving lessons of courage and humility. Playwrights filled the theaters with stories that questioned power, justice, and human nature. Athena's spirit was present in every word, guiding their voices toward truth and understanding. For the Athenians believed that storytelling itself was a sacred path to wisdom and harmony. Philosophers, too, found fertile ground in the city blessed by their patroness of wisdom. They walked among students, asking questions that stirred minds and opened hearts. What is justice, they wondered, and how should one live a good and noble life? Their discussions stretched into the night. The stars above mirrored the light of their thoughts. In those exchanges, Athena's voice was felt, urging them toward reason, fairness, and balance. Athenians also celebrated their goddess with festivals that united the city in joy and devotion. The Panathenea, held in her honor, was more than a ritual. It was the heartbeat of Athens. Citizens gathered in processions, carrying offerings, music, and hymns through the vibrant streets. Athletes competed in games, artists displayed their work, and the people rejoiced together. It was a festival of unity, reminding all that their greatness was rooted in their shared devotion. Through these traditions, the bond between goddess and city deepened with every passing year. Athena was not only worshipped in temples, but lived in the rhythm of daily Athenian life. Children grew up hearing her stories, learning to walk with courage, kindness, and clarity. Parents reminded them that the olive tree on the Acropolis was more than a gift. It was a guide. And so, generation after generation, the lessons of their goddess were carried forward with pride. Travelers and envoys who came to Athens marveled at its beauty and its spirit of wisdom. They saw a city not only of marble and markets, but of ideas that glowed brighter than gold. Some took these ideas back to their own lands, spreading Athena's influence far beyond Greece. In this way, the goddess's gift reached across seas and mountains, shaping distant peoples. Athens became not just a city, but a beacon, shining with the wisdom of its eternal patroness. And through it all, Athena remained ever present, unseen yet deeply felt in the city's soul. Her guidance was not a distant echo, but a living flame, steady as the olive tree itself. She was their guardian, their teacher, their inspiration in times of peace and challenge alike. The people of Athens walked forward with confidence, knowing their goddess was with them. And so, the city grew not only in size and power, but in spirit. nourished by Athena's wisdom. In the years that followed, Athens continued to blossom, carrying Athena's wisdom as its guiding star. The city's streets grew lively with voices, laughter, and debates that echoed beneath the open sky. Every square, every marketplace became a stage where knowledge, art, and stories intertwined freely. Athenians walked proudly, aware that their goddess had blessed them with more than mere survival. She had given them identity, dignity, and the courage to build a city unlike any other in the world. The olive groves flourished across the hills, their silver leaves shimmering under the sun's embrace. Farmers worked with care, knowing they were tending to the living legacy of their goddess. The oil pressed from their harvest-filled lamps that illuminated homes, shrines, and public spaces. Its golden glow reminded them that wisdom, like light, must be shared and never hoarded. Each flame burning in Athens was a quiet tribute to Athena's enduring gift of clarity and peace. Beyond the fields, the arts continued to rise like a river, flowing steadily toward greatness. Poets recited verses that told of gods and heroes, weaving lessons of courage and humility. Playwrights filled the theaters with stories that questioned power, justice, and human nature. Athena's spirit was present in every word, guiding their voices toward truth and understanding. For the Athenians believed that storytelling itself was a sacred path to wisdom and harmony. Philosophers, too, found fertile ground in the city blessed by their patroness of wisdom. They walked among students, asking questions that stirred minds and opened hearts. What is justice, they wondered, and how should one live a good and noble life? Their discussions stretched into the night, as stars above mirrored the light of their thoughts. In those exchanges, Athena's voice was felt, urging them toward reason, fairness, and balance. Athenians also celebrated their goddess with festivals that united the city in joy and devotion. The Panathenea, held in her honor, was more than a ritual. It was the heartbeat of Athens. Citizens gathered in processions, carrying offerings, music, and hymns through the vibrant streets. Athletes competed in games, artists displayed their work, and the people rejoiced together. It was a festival of unity, reminding all that their greatness was rooted in their shared devotion. Through these traditions, the bond between goddess and city deepened with every passing year. Athena was not only worshipped in temples, but lived in the rhythm of daily Athenian life. Children grew up hearing her stories, learning to walk with courage, kindness, and clarity. Parents reminded them that the olive tree on the Acropolis was more than a gift. It was a guide. And so, generation after generation, the lessons of their goddess were carried forward with pride. Travelers and envoys who came to Athens marveled at its beauty and its spirit of wisdom. They saw a city not only of marble and markets, but of ideas that glowed brighter than gold. Some took these ideas back to their own lands, spreading Athena's influence far beyond Greece. In this way, the goddess's gift reached across seas and mountains, shaping distant peoples. Athens became not just a city, but a beacon, shining with the wisdom of its eternal patroness. And through it all, Athena remained ever present, unseen yet deeply felt in the city's soul. Her guidance was not a distant echo, but a living flame, steady as the olive tree itself. She was their guardian, their teacher, their inspiration in times of peace and challenge alike. The people of Athens walked forward with confidence, knowing their goddess was with them. And so, the city grew not only in size and power, but in spirit, nourished by Athena's wisdom. As the story of Athena and Athens draws to its close, the bond between goddess and city shines eternal. The olive tree still stands on the Acropolis, its branches whispering tales of peace and resilience. Generations have come and gone, yet the roots of wisdom planted by Athena remain strong and alive. Athens became more than a city of stone and marble. It became a vision of thought and justice. The light of reason and knowledge, once a flicker, grew into a flame that touched the world beyond. Through Athena's guidance, Athenians learned that greatness lies not in power, but in balance. They discovered that wisdom is a gift to be shared, not guarded, and peace a choice worth keeping. Every law crafted, every word debated, carried echoes of her calm and steady influence. She was their patroness not only in temples, but in their minds, their hearts, their way of life. In her, the city found its soul, one that valued truth, fairness, and the pursuit of harmony. The legacy of Athens, carried through centuries, speaks not only of warriors and rulers. It tells of thinkers, artists, and storytellers who sought light in the presence of their goddess. Philosophers asked questions that shaped the course of history, guided by her enduring wisdom. Poets sang verses that outlived empires, carrying her name into the farthest reaches of time. The olive, the owl, the Parthenon, symbols of her devotion, still whisper her presence today. And though ages have passed, Athena's spirit has never left the heart of her chosen city. Travelers still walk the steps of the Acropolis, feeling her watchful eyes upon the stones. They see the ruins not as remnants, but as reminders of a living bond between mortal and divine. Athens endures because its essence was shaped by a goddess who valued mind above might. Her wisdom became the foundation upon which ideas of democracy and freedom were built. Athena's story reminds us that even the smallest gifts can change the course of a people. Her olive tree was not grand or fierce, but it carried the promise of life and renewal. It taught Athenians that strength lies in patience, endurance, and the courage to choose peace. Through her, they learned that the true measure of a city is found in its soul, not its walls. And that measure has carried Athens through the tides of history, glowing with eternal light. So when we speak of Athens, we do not only speak of a place on a map or stones on a hill. We speak of wisdom, reason, creativity, and the enduring presence of the goddess, Athena. She is more than a figure of myth. She is a symbol of what humanity can strive to become, to think deeply, to act justly, to seek peace, and to honor the gifts of life and knowledge. This is the legacy she gave, not only to Athens, but to all who walk in the light of wisdom. And as our tale closes, imagine the Acropolis bathed in golden evening light once more. The olive tree sways gently in the wind, carrying the breath of centuries in its leaves. Its roots cling to the sacred rock, just as Athena's spirit clings to the heart of her city. Athens lives because she lives, in story, in stone, in the wisdom passed from age to age. And in that bond, unbroken, we see not an ending, but a light that will never fade away.